In the house by the lake, a woman named Vanessa stared lost in thought out of the window. But suddenly a bird crashed into the glass, pulling her out of her deep contemplation. Alex, Vanessa's husband, came to help deal with the bird. He said that his mother once told him that such birds symbolize the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new one. He tried to take his beloved's hand, but she simply walked away. In their large beautiful house, one of the rooms was meant for a child. But it was empty now. Over breakfast, Vanessa told Alex and his brother Martel that she had heard noises from the forest during the night. But the men had heard nothing, and besides, the facility in the forest had been shut down. Rumor had it that various experiments had been conducted there, linked to the disappearances of people in the area. Then the facility was closed, and the forest was restored as a nature reserve. Alex suggested that Martel was repeating not what people said, but what their father used to say. And he was just a conspiracy theorist, so his words shouldn't be trusted. How could you trust someone who simply disappeared from their lives? But his brother was convinced that the disappearance was not so simple. Their father had been searching for something, which might have been written in his journal, which he lost in the forest. Armed with rifles and radios, Vanessa and her husband's brother were preparing to walk in the woods. The preparations went routinely until Martel accidentally mentioned the name of Vanessa and Alex's deceased son. Vanessa couldn't take it and ran out of the house. The husband rushed after her. He tried to convince Vanessa that his brother was just trying to help them move on. But the woman went into the forest alone. Out in nature and alone, she felt some relief. Inhaling the scents of the forest, she tried to release her nervous tension, but her ears caught sounds that clearly didn't belong to the natural surroundings. Suddenly someone fired a shot right near her. Vanessa was lucky that the bullet missed her. She hid behind a tree and fired back. Peering out from her cover, she saw herself. Earlier before leaving, she had promised her husband to return in an hour. Alex tried to contact her via radio, but there was no response. The men hurried toward the forest when suddenly Vanessa emerged to meet them. The woman was agitated, and when asked what had happened, she briefly replied that she had seen a bear. Vanessa rushed into the room like a whirlwind. Alex followed her, sensing that she had lied about what she had seen. The man couldn't understand why after the loss of their son, the beloved had distanced herself so much from him and refused to accept his support. All their conversations led back to the same topic. But right now Vanessa's mind was occupied not with that, but with what she had seen in the forest. The woman began searching for the pills her therapist had prescribed to ease her condition after the tragedy. But finding the medication, she paused, wondering whether she should take it. Perhaps what she had seen wasn't just a product of her sick imagination? Martel tried to support his brother. Alex shared that he had lost the son a year ago, and now he felt he was losing his beloved. They hardly talked anymore. They spent all their time apart, they even slept in separate rooms. Alex couldn't remember the last time he had seen his wife smile. He hoped that if they supported each other and continued therapy, things would get better. But it was only getting worse. Vanessa watched television alone. Alex offered his wife dinner, and she emerged from her sanctuary to join the men. Martel told funny stories from their childhood and how those stories had shaped his life. He was convinced that we as humans are constantly evolving. We're always changing, even when we don't realize it. Infinite possibilities with infinite outcomes open up before us, and it's impossible to get everything right every time. Mistakes are lessons. After listening to Alex's brother, Vanessa decided to leave. Martel accidentally burned his hand and was the first to go inside. Alex stayed behind, upset by what had happened. In the house, Vanessa saw that the burn on Martel's hand was very severe. But the man didn't want to treat it and preferred to go for a walk. Vanessa turned around, and suddenly Martel emerged from the depths of the house with his hand bandaged. Vanessa looked at him in shock but didn't dare voice what she saw. At night, the woman couldn't sleep. The scene where she saw herself in the forest kept replaying in her mind. She grabbed some bullets and her rifle and headed into the woods. There, she found the fence of the very facility Alex's brother had talked about. There were traces of blood on the gate. Vanessa passed through the partially collapsed gates without any trouble. Looking around, she cautiously walked farther and farther in. As she wandered through the forest, Vanessa realized that the surroundings looked very familiar. She saw her footprints on the ground, but everything around her looked too similar. She marked the trees but it didn't help. Vanessa kept returning to the same strange-looking tree again and again. The panic was growing. Vanessa quickened her pace, but no matter how fast she ran, she couldn't escape. At some point she felt that something had changed and finally found a way out. She hurriedly left the strange place. But the bloodstains on the gate through which she had entered were gone. At home, Vanessa told Alex that she had found something in the forest. But it was hard to explain, and Alex didn't believe her, thinking that his wife had simply gotten lost. Vanessa described how she had tied a scarf, marked the trees, and everything disappeared, but the husband still didn't believe her. Vanessa recalled Alex's father's experiments and mentioned that she had seen herself in the forest. But Alex didn't believe in time loops. He believed that Vanessa needed a doctor's help. Today was a special day, the anniversary of their son's demise. Alex became more and more agitated as he recalled those fateful events. It turned out that he remembered everything differently from Vanessa. In the woman's memories, she was the one driving the car during the tragedy. She and their son were in the car when some guy ignored the red traffic light and crashed into them. But Alex was certain that he had been the one driving. Vanessa was deeply frightened by this situation. She didn't understand what was happening. She looked at Alex and saw that the man in front of her looked very much like Alex, but it wasn't him. Hearing the commotion, Martel came running, and the girl noticed that the burn was on the wrong hand, different from where it had been originally. She realized she wasn't at home, and the people around her were strangers. Vanessa fled into the forest. She returned to the clearing where she had been trapped earlier that morning. Suddenly Vanessa heard that someone else was nearby. She called out to the person and, aiming her rifle, told the unknown to come out slowly. It was Alex. But he claimed they didn't know each other. The man immediately warned her that he was from another world, from another time-space, if that made it easier to understand. The man said that Vanessa looked a lot like his wife, but he could see the differences. He asked Vanessa to lower her weapon, offering to help her find a way out of here. Holding her rifle at the ready, Vanessa followed the man. The Alex from another world started a fire and lit a cigarette. To Vanessa's surprise, he explained that in each reality, people's versions are slightly different from one another. It could be their hair, moles, scars or habits. Alex explained that they were currently in fragmented versions of the world, and the house was the core. When Vanessa asked if they could move between dimensions from here, Alex replied that he had lost count of how many times he had traveled between parallel realities. The man didn't know how it all worked, but he had his theories. But he couldn't test it alone. He explained that there was a paradox: you couldn't coexist in a space already occupied by another version of yourself. In this version of the universe, Alex was a physicist who studied such phenomena. When he asked what he was like in Vanessa's universe, the woman replied that Alex was kind, sweet and very patient. He had been a wonderful father and worked as a math teacher. In the other Alex's world, Vanessa was his rock and everything he could have wished for in life. But she had left him after their son's demise. She had sunk deeper and deeper into depression and one day came here, getting lost in the dimensions. Alex hoped to see her again, but everyone he had met wasn't as Vanessa. But he wasn't planning to give up and was determined to find her at any cost. Vanessa had one more troubling question: was there any version of reality where her son was still alive? Alex said he had searched for him too, but the boy had either perished or never existed. Vanessa decided that the man simply hadn't searched well enough. Alex suggested trying to return Vanessa to her original dimension. For this they would need fishing line, a lot of it. So they headed back to the house. Suddenly they were met by drunk Martel, who accused them of promising to leave him alone but coming back again. In his version of reality, he had been driving them all home, and Vanessa was pregnant. But only Martel survived. He begged them not to come back anymore, saying that it was becoming harder and harder for him to see them each time. Both Vanessa and Alex left. They set Alex's plan into motion. But first they came up with a secret password to recognize each other. Ward 1111, Bed 8, this was where their son was born. Before they parted, Vanessa asked Alex how he had realized it wasn't his own dimension the first time he got lost. Some time ago Alex had entered the house and heard sounds of a struggle. Martel ran past him, chasing another Martel. They both ran into the forest. Alex followed them. When he passed through the gate, they were gone, and since then, he had been wandering here. Before parting, Alex kissed Vanessa, though not his own but so dear to him. Vanessa waited by the campfire. The fishing line twitched, and Alex emerged. He correctly gave the password. This time Alex had been in a version of the universe where they had all come to terms with the loss of their son and moved on with their lives. Alex proposed a new plan: to blow up the tree they kept returning to after finding their dimensions using the fishing line. In his opinion, this would seal the portal. Vanessa agreed. More than anything, she wanted to return to her husband. But before that, Alex decided to check the house one more time to make sure their plan was working as it should. Vanessa waited. When the fishing line twitched, she called out the password, but there was no response. She quickly put out the fire and started packing her things, then followed the fishing line back to the house, where it wasn't her Alex was supposed to be. Inside it was quiet. She cautiously closed the door and entered the house. Alex was asleep in the kitchen. When Vanessa accidentally woke him and said the password, Alex didn't understand what she was talking about. He looked at Vanessa as if she were a ghost. His Vanessa had gone into the forest and disappeared. This Vanessa asked where Martel was, how his hand was, and on which side the burn was. Alex, dumbfounded, answered all the questions correctly. Vanessa realized she was home and began to tell her husband what she had been through. Martel called out to her, and when Vanessa turned around, Alex knocked her out with a bottle. The awakening was rough. The men immobilized her, after which they began to argue. Alex shouted that she wasn't his wife and grabbed a gun. Martel stopped his brother, convincing him that they didn't need to do this. This was indeed Vanessa's original dimension, but after she left, another Vanessa had arrived here, and Alex had taken her life. The body was proof of that. This other Vanessa had returned home with a bullet wound on her leg. One of the other Vanessas had tried to take her life, so she had to shoot first to protect everyone. Vanessa tried to explain about the different dimensions. Martel tried to calm Alex, but he couldn't believe what was happening and what he had seen. He attempted to get rid of Vanessa again, but Martel rushed to protect her. In the struggle, Alex accidentally wounded himself. Martel kicked Vanessa out. As the girl approached the forest, Martel voluntarily passed away, saying in farewell that he didn't know who she was, but she no longer belonged to this world. Vanessa returned to the clearing. The dimension had changed, there lay a lifeless Alex, but Vanessa realized this Alex was a stranger to her. On his hand was a mark from a recently removed wedding ring. Vanessa went to the house to check where she had ended up this time but decided to be more cautious. From behind the trees, she watched as Martel, Alex and another Vanessa happily enjoyed each other's company. But she didn't reveal herself and returned to the clearing. She was awakened by Alex. He said the password, and Vanessa responded. The woman told him what had happened in her original dimension. It turned out that Alex had also been there during the time Vanessa went into the forest. Her family members had been searching for her. Vanessa had lost everyone she loved. Meanwhile, this Alex had found his dimension and now wanted to blow up the tree. But Vanessa noticed that this Alex had a wedding ring, which he didn't have when they first met. She asked if the wife of the Alex he had taken his life believed him. Alex replied that the fewer Alexis, the better. He suggested Vanessa do the same, find a dimension she liked and make it her own. But such happiness didn't satisfy Vanessa. A heated argument ensued between them, once again revolving around their deceased son. Vanessa realized why the other Vanessa had left this other Alex. As he bid her farewell, he advised her to choose wisely when the time came to make a decision. Then the man hid the body of the Alex from this reality inside the tree and set a timer for 45 minutes. During this time, Vanessa had to find herself a new dimension. Vanessa moved to a safe distance, deciding to take a break and collect her thoughts to figure out what to do next. Suddenly another Vanessa aimed a rifle at her. In the ensuing conversation, it became clear that this Vanessa was the same one that Alex, who had just set the explosives, was looking for. But this Vanessa didn't want to go back to him. The two women began to fight, and one of them lost her life. Vanessa walked toward the gate. She was exhausted, hating the day when all this began. She decided to go home, regardless of which reality it was. The house was quiet and empty. Vanessa took a shower and let her emotions out. For the first time in a long while, she fell asleep in bed. She was awakened by a bird hitting the glass of the bedroom window. Vanessa went downstairs to remove the carcass. Suddenly Alex approached her and said a phrase that his mother used to say to him as a child, a phrase Vanessa had heard in exactly the same situation before. Alex took her hand, saying that this bird was a sign of a new beginning. Vanessa couldn't believe what was happening. Alex saw that something was wrong with Vanessa. He offered her a heart-to-heart talk, but the girl carefully avoided the topic. Martel came over and suggested they take a walk, but both Alex and Vanessa declined in unison. Vanessa went upstairs to the son's room. She noticed that some things in the house were not where it should be. Opening the door to the room, she was surprised to see children's clothes on the bed. Suddenly she heard the son calling her. Now she had found everything she was looking for. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.